Deep in the Appalachian wilderness lies Turtle Island Preserve, a place often associated with self-reliance, traditional living, and the philosophy of returning to nature. Over the years, stories have grown around its creator, Eustace Conway, portraying him as a modern mountain man devoted to simplicity and survival skills in an increasingly technological world. Yet, in the realm of internet storytelling, fact and fiction often blur, and legends tend to expand far beyond their origins. This narrative is a fictional reimagining inspired by those exaggerated internet myths, an exploration of what might happen if whispers, rumors, and speculation around an isolated wilderness figure spiraled into something far larger and more mysterious. In this version of events, a storm becomes the catalyst for discovery, and a quiet homestead is transformed into the center of an unfolding enigma. As with many modern myths, the story grows through fragmented accounts, dramatic retellings, and sensational interpretations. What begins as a simple inspection of an old barn soon evolves into a tale of hidden chambers, forgotten artifacts, and unsettling questions about knowledge, secrecy, and human obsession. This is not a report of reality, but a constructed narrative designed to echo the style of viral mystery storytelling, where truth is less important than atmosphere, and every unanswered question becomes fuel for imagination. 1. The storm and the rumor spiral. In the fictionalized retelling, everything begins with a powerful storm sweeping across the mountains, leaving damage scattered across remote homesteads and forest structures. Roads are blocked, trees are down, and emergency crews are dispatched to assess isolated properties. Among them is the legendary Turtle Island Preserve, a place already surrounded by decades of folklore and curiosity. As inspectors move through the aftermath, rumors begin spreading faster than official reports. Social media posts exaggerate early findings, transforming routine damage assessments into something far more dramatic. Within hours, claims emerge of hidden chambers beneath old buildings and sealed structures that no one had ever documented before. The story escalates, not because of confirmed facts, but because of interpretation. A broken latch becomes a sealed vault. A collapsed floorboard becomes a hidden entrance. Every detail is reshaped through the lens of mystery-seeking audiences who are eager for something extraordinary. In this fictional account, the storm is not just weather. It becomes a narrative trigger. It disrupts the quiet order of the preserve and opens the door to speculation. The idea that something long buried might finally be exposed spreads quickly, drawing attention from curious observers, online communities, and local officials simply trying to separate fact from exaggeration. By the time anyone attempts to verify the claims, the story has already taken on a life of its own. 2. The old barn and its silence. At the center of the narrative stands an aging barn constructed from weathered timber and hand-cut beams. To most observers, it appears unremarkable, just another structure built for storage and utility. But in stories like these, ordinary places often become symbols of hidden depth. Locals in the fictionalized version describe the barn as unusually private, rarely open to outsiders, and treated with a level of care that bordered on ritual. It is not just a building, they say, but a space of personal significance, filled with tools, supplies, and objects accumulated over years of isolated living. When inspectors arrive, they encounter heavy locks and reinforced fastenings that seem excessive for a simple agricultural structure. The moment they step inside, the tone of the story shifts. Dust hangs in the air, light filters through, cracks in the wood, and everything feels preserved in time. In this retelling, the barn becomes a psychological space as much as a physical one. It represents separation from the modern world, a boundary between public perception and private life. Every creak of wood and shadowed corner adds to the sense that something is being concealed. Not necessarily maliciously, but intentionally. Still, nothing immediately explains the growing tension that surrounds the place. It is only when investigators begin looking beyond the obvious that the story deepens into mystery. 3. The discovery beneath the floor. According to the fictional narrative, the turning point occurs when a loose floorboard reveals a concealed hatch beneath the barn structure. What initially appears to be minor structural damage becomes the entrance to a hidden underground space. A narrow staircase descends into darkness, leading to a chamber that feels removed from the surface world. The air changes noticeably, cooler, denser, and tinged with the scent of aged materials. Shelving lines the walls, filled with containers, tools, and carefully preserved objects that suggest long-term organization rather than abandonment. The presence of journals, instruments, and labeled crates creates an impression of systematic documentation. Nothing appears randomly placed. Instead, everything seems categorized, as if someone had spent years building a personal archive away from public view. In this fictionalized version, investigators struggle to interpret what they are seeing. Some elements resemble scientific storage, while others feel more like personal collections or experimental records. The ambiguity fuels speculation rather than clarity. What matters most in the narrative is not the specific contents, but the emotional reaction they provoke: confusion, curiosity, and unease. The underground space feels intentional, but its purpose remains unclear. As more details emerge, the story shifts from a simple inspection to something resembling a puzzle with no agreed-upon solution. 4. The underground chamber. Deeper exploration reveals a larger chamber extending beyond the initial hatch. In this fictional account, the space is structured rather than accidental, suggesting deliberate construction rather than natural formation. Shelves, tables, and storage units are arranged in a way that implies long-term use. The environment feels controlled, as if someone intended to preserve knowledge or materials in isolation. The lighting is minimal, forcing reliance on flashlights that cast shifting shadows across the walls. Among the objects described in the story are preserved natural specimens, handwritten notes, and tools that appear handmade or modified. Their presence creates ambiguity. Are they scientific in nature, artistic, or simply personal curiosities? The narrative emphasizes interpretation over certainty. Different observers see different meanings in the same objects. Some perceive documentation of nature, others see experimental obsession, while others view it as an isolated attempt to understand the natural world through direct experience. What intensifies the mystery is not evidence of wrongdoing, but the secrecy implied by the location itself. Why build such a space underground? Why hide it at all? In this fictional retelling, no clear answer is provided. Instead, the chamber becomes a symbol of human curiosity pushed into isolation, where learning, fear, and imagination merge into a single, uncertain space. 5. The man at the center of the story. In the fictionalized narrative, attention eventually shifts back to the figure associated with the preserve. He is portrayed not as a villain or hero, but as an enigmatic individual shaped by years of wilderness, living in philosophical reflection. His public image, one of simplicity, survival, and rejection of modern excess, stands in contrast to the growing mystery surrounding the hidden structures. This contradiction fuels speculation. How can a person committed to simplicity also be associated with complexity hidden beneath the surface? Yet the story resists easy conclusions. Instead of offering explanations, it presents behavior interpreted through multiple lenses. To some, his actions suggest preservation of knowledge. To others, they suggest secrecy. To others still, they represent misunderstood intention. The fictional account avoids confirming any single interpretation. Instead, it focuses on how narratives form around individuals when information is incomplete. The man becomes a symbol onto which others project meaning. What remains consistent throughout the story is silence. No definitive explanation is offered, and ambiguity becomes the defining characteristic of the entire situation. In the absence of clarity, imagination fills the gaps, expanding the story far beyond its original boundaries. 6. The spread of speculation. Once the discovery enters public discussion in this fictional universe, interpretation spreads rapidly. Online communities, local conversations, and informal discussions reshape the narrative repeatedly. Each retelling adds new layers. Some versions emphasize hidden knowledge. Others focus on secrecy. Others treat the entire situation as misunderstood history. The lack of verified information allows speculation to flourish unchecked. In this environment, the story becomes less about physical evidence and more about collective imagination. Every detail is exaggerated, reframed, or reinterpreted, depending on who is telling it. This phase of the narrative highlights how modern myths evolve. Information no longer needs confirmation to become influential, it only needs repetition. The fictional account uses this phenomenon to show how quickly uncertainty transforms into legend. What began as a simple inspection becomes a layered mystery story with shifting meanings. 7. Investigators and interpretation. In the story, investigators attempt to bring structure to the chaos of speculation. They catalog items, examine materials, and document findings in an effort to separate fact from rumor. However, their interpretations differ. Some see archival behavior, others see experimental patterns, and others remain uncertain. The lack of consensus contributes to the growing ambiguity surrounding the site. The fictional narrative emphasizes that interpretation is influenced by expectation. What one person considers ordinary, another may see as extraordinary depending on context. This section of the story highlights the difficulty of assigning meaning without full information. Every conclusion remains tentative, thus subject to revision as new interpretations emerge. 8. The legacy of isolation. The narrative explores the psychological dimension of isolation. Living away from society for extended periods can lead to unique perspectives, habits, and ways of organizing knowledge. In this fictional retelling, isolation becomes a central theme. It shapes how spaces are used, how objects are preserved, and how meaning is constructed. Rather than portraying isolation as inherently positive or negative, the story presents it as transformative. It changes perception, priorities, and interpretation of the world. The hidden structures are framed not as evidence of wrongdoing, but as extensions of a worldview shaped by distance from mainstream society. 9. The unanswered questions. As the story progresses, the number of unanswered questions grows. Why were certain objects preserved? Why was the space hidden? What purpose did it serve? The fictional narrative refuses to resolve these questions. Instead, it uses them to sustain tension and curiosity. The absence of answers becomes more important than any potential explanation. It allows the story to remain open-ended, encouraging interpretation rather than conclusion. 10. The fading of the story. Over time, attention begins to shift. New stories replace old ones, and the narrative slowly fades from public focus. Without confirmation or closure, it becomes part of a larger collection of internet myths. The fictional account emphasizes how quickly even dramatic stories can lose prominence when no resolution is provided. Mystery thrives on attention, and without it, even the most elaborate narratives begin to dissolve. Outro. What remains is the myth. In the end, what remains is not evidence, but story. The fictionalized account of Turtle Island becomes another example of how modern myths are created, not through confirmed events, but through interpretation, repetition, and imagination. The barn, the chambers, and the underground spaces exist here only as narrative constructs, shaped by curiosity and speculation. They represent the human tendency to search for hidden meaning in isolated places and misunderstood figures. Whether rooted in truth or fiction, such stories reflect something larger about how people engage with mystery. They reveal a desire for depth in simplicity and explanation in silence. And so the story fades not with resolution, but with uncertainty intact, leaving behind only questions, interpretations, and the enduring appeal of the unknown.